2 मिनट फास्ट हो गए.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Kirti, Assistant Professor, Chanakya National Law University. Today, we are starting with the course code MMPH001, and the title of this course is Organizational Theory and Design. So, after studying this entire unit, which is the first unit, you'll be able to explain the meaning of organization, describe what makes the business organization different from other social collectives, explain the meaning and types of organizational metaphors, and describe the framework for analyzing the strategic attributes of an organization. Now, as per the structure of your Unit 1, you'll be discussing introduction, then meaning and characteristics of organization, then we will understand organization as system, then approaches to organization, and the various models, which is 7S model of organization. So first we need to understand the background of our organization. Where does this word come from and what does this word means? So something which is organized, and it could be family, school, church, or any kind of sports team, or it can be understood as a corporation, army, or government. So organization is a social unit with some specific purpose or purposes. Now, organizing is also a subject of large activities of managing, and it is that process by which the structure of an organization is created and maintained. So, yes, it is a collection of various agents, collection of various elements, but organizing is the process through which an organization comes into being. So, the process of organizing includes determination of specific activities necessary to accomplish certain common goals and objectives. Now, the grouping of these activities and assigning these activities to specific person or job position, and creation of a network of positions where the person or people will be handling those positions for the purpose of conducting various management functions such as planning, motivation, communication, coordination, and control. So this is the process of organizing. Now the term organization is derived from the Greek word oregon, and it means tool or instrument. So, meaning thereby, it is that tool or instrument through which collective purposes and objectives are achieved. So, it is often been understood as the embodiment of persistent. So, organization to be called as an organization needs to be persistent in all its activities. So, if it ceases to exist, then there will be no organization. So, efforts are there to coordinate, influence, and control human behavior in order to reach some desired result. So, without intervention, without the effort to coordinate and control and communicate, no organization can succeed or even exist. According to Chester Barnard, the organization is a system of continuously coordinated activities or forces of two or more persons. So there has to be more than one person involved, and they must have certain goals and objectives. To attain those goals and objectives, they must have certain activities, and those activities should be continuously coordinated, and there should be smooth communication among those people. Okay, then Webers in his agile type defined the following features and dimensions as distinguished from other social collectivities. Now, other social collectives are various organization or various groups which is informal in nature, but here we are talking about organization as a formal group. So, organization feature acts per the Weber's definition is that it is transparent and has different definite boundaries. So there are definite boundaries within which every person is supposed to work and have their motives met, and it signifies the social unit which is either closed or limits the admission of outsiders. So it has a boundary where outsiders cannot intervene, and it is only the member of the organization which are supposed to do activities. Yes, outsiders intervention can be done, but it can be done only in the case of need or as per the requirement. Like if there is certain outsider and he wants to intervene or interact with the internal system or agents, then there should be a purpose, like suppliers, like government organizations, supplier of raw material, the middleman who is going to act as a channel between the manufacturer or producer or the consumers. So it has a collective identity of its own and signifies as a social unit, which is either closed or limits the admission of outsiders, as we have already discussed. Then organization can be viewed as a system, and it should be viewed as a system. In the coming unit, that is second unit, we'll be viewing it that how organization is a system. And here that like modernist approach towards management towards the organization suggests that organization is a system and it has subparts or subsystem and it acts as a whole. So here let's look out to the meaning. And system is defined by the set of integrated and mutually dependent parts arranged in such a manner that it produces a unified result and act as a whole system. So it has been defined as an arrangement of interrelated parts. So system has various parts which are organized together, brought together, and they are integrated, and they all these parts are dependent upon each other for the attainment of overall goal and objectives of the organization. So the word arrangement and interrelated means that there is interdependent elements forming an entity that is the system. So when taking a system approach, one begins by identifying the individual parts or the subsystems and then seek to understand the nature of their collective interaction. So in this way we can understand an organization. Now, another qualities of a system to be called as an organization are designed to accomplish an objective or set of objectives, composed of interrelated parts called as subsystem, as we have already mentioned in the first and second slide. Then subsystems must have an established arrangement. Then interrelationships must exist among the individual elements of a system, and these interrelationships must be synergetic in nature. So there should be a sync between all these subsystems to be called as a whole the system, which we are referring here as an organization. Then basic ingredients must be there: the flow of information, energy and material of a process are more vital than the basic element of a system. So energy, synchronization, material, the flow of information, the communication is the virtual part or non-tangible part of this entire organizational system, and its objectives are more important than the objective of its subsystem. So each and every part can have various objectives, but together their objectives should be aligned to called as an organization. Then here is a diagram given by Levitt and Herald in the year 1665, and Levitt has given various subparts or components, a basic framework to understand what organization could seem as a system. So here in the diagram we can see that there are task environment, then there on the outer layer there is task environment which is competitors, union, regulatory, customers. Then there is the entire procedure, the structure. In the inner core there is structure, technology, people and task. So within the outs organizational boundary, we have four components or four subsystems. First is structure, then we have the task, then we have the technology, and there are people who could work on the basis of that structure, perform certain tasks with the help of various technologies available within the organization. And in the outer core or outer layer, we see that there are business environment or task environment, and we take input that is material, capital, human resources, and we transform it with the help of technology, and the output is also offered to the outer layer, which is the environment again, where society and consumers exist. And the output is the product or services offered by the organization. So, this is the basic structure or framework on which a system works, or to define or describe the entire system to be referred as an organization. Then, organization as a system, we have to view it as an open system. Like if we see the computer and you've asked, you have certain inserted the command or used your mouse to open a folder. Now that folder will be open. So you have given an input that is a command to open that folder. Now computer does the processing and you can have no interference in that particular moment where it opens the folder which you have wanted to get opened, and you only get to see the outcome. The folder is open in front of you. So computer system does not have any influence whether it is raining outside, whether your mood has switched, or whether there is a hot climate outside. So the system's processing does not have any influence of the outer world. So we can refer computer as a closed system. Now see human body. We have organs such as heart. It does not get affected, and it pumps the blood over our human body, and we cannot interfere it. So the voluntary process or non-voluntary function mechanism goes on in our body, and we cannot interfere. I do not I If I want to stop my heart, I cannot do that. Yes, after certain interventions and mechanism we can do it, but it is not non-voluntary organ. We cannot interfere in its functioning. So, but when compared to an organization, we consider it as an open system. Whatever happens in the business environment, whether it is at macro level or micro level or inside, which is internal environment, it gets affected. So processing always has an impact, that how input is transformed into an output. There is a mechanism which gets affected by the overall environment. So we say that organization is an open system. Like here in the diagram given by French and Bell during the year of 1999, we see that there are two layers again to understand the open system. First is in the outer layer, we have sources of energy, resources, material, information, human relations, and human resources. So everything is coming from outside the internal business environment. Then we have the internal environment in which we have input, transformation mechanisms, and output, and the interface of feedback mechanism, internal interface. And then in the external interface, we have users. Again, there can be a feedback mechanism with them. So, meaning thereby that it has a transformation mechanism, it has certain output, and there is feedback mechanism. So, every time the information comes, we need to change, or we can change our internal mechanism, or how the input is transformed into output. So, the external environment has a great significance over the processing, over the input, how we are getting it, what we are getting, and how we are processing the or different outputs, and how it is getting used by the consumer. Everything is getting impacted, everything is getting affected at a certain level, at a certain level with the help of the business environment. So system interaction with this environment is what we need to understand here to recognize organization as a system, open system. Then approaches to organization. Now there can be various approaches to organization, means that we can view organization like a system, like a machine, like a political system, like a political party. So we can view organization or understand it in the various perspectives. So here we are trying to understand organization as a machine. So as a machine has several parts and it functions in a particular time as per the desired outcome, and those parts together work on the basis of certain energy and it gives some certain output to us. So in the same manner organization has also certain parts. So mechanistic approach to organization work well only under few conditions. So, as we have discussed, that organization as an open system, machines are somewhat type of closed system, but we can understand it as a machine in the light of certain assumptions. So, when there is a straightforward task to perform, there is no hindrance from the outside world. There is no involvement or affect. It cannot affect the internal decision. So straightforward task has to be performed. Then only we can consider organization as a machine. Then when the environment is suitable enough to ensure that the product produced will be appropriate once. So once the environment does not have any turmoil or it does not poses any threat, till then, the organization can be treated or understood as a machine. But once there is a turmoil, any change, any factor which is going to affect our internal transformation process, then there will be problem to understand that it as a machine. So the environment has to be stable enough to view organization as a machine. So another assumption is that when one wishes to produce exactly the same product time and again, then only we can view organization as a machine. Then when precision is at a premium, there is no scope of any error. Then only we can consider it as a machine. Then when the human machine parts are compliant and behave as they have been designed to. Is it possible? Can we have a human being or employee which is very much compliant and behaves exactly as they are asked to? Because human behavior is very difficult to be managed. But in certain cases, we can do that. We can train them, we can develop them in certain way that they exhibit only the desired outcome or exhibit only the desired behavior. So in this manner, we can assume that yes, organization can be understood as a machine. Then organizations as organism. We human beings are organisms. Any animal is an organism. Now Morgan parallels or tries to make people understand that there is a similarity between organisms and the organization in terms of organic function. We take the resources from the environment. As a human being, I eat, I drink water, I use the resources from the environment and I use it for my benefit, and I channelize it, my body processes it, and I give certain output. Like today I'm taking this lecture or delivering this lecture, and I'm using my energy, I'm using the brain, I'm using the information that I've gathered from the various sources, like your book, like the internet, like the old books which I've studied and comprehended this topic. So what I am doing, I am giving an output and I'm working in on a set pattern. So organizations can be viewed in terms of organic functioning, relation with the environment, relation with the species and wider ecology. So organization in the same way is a part of the entire ecosystem, and they take the resources, transform it and give certain output which are product and services. Okay, so organization as an open system, we can understand it when it comes to comparison or using the metaphor organism for the understanding of organizations. Then we can see that the process of adapting organization to the environment. As a human being, organization also tries to change and mold itself and shape up its internal environment to meet the requirement of the changing outside environment. So in this way, we can view it as an organism. Then, just like human being or just like any other organisms, organization also have a life cycle. It is conceived, it has a development phase, it has a booming phase, then it declining phase, and then there is recreational or redesigning phases there, that organizations are restructured to be revived and to sustain in the long run. So there are factors influencing organizational health and development, as we have already discussed this in our previous course, that business environment is there and there were various factors which affect the organization. So here we are referring it as the organizational health and development. So organizational development is there and it gets affected by the various factors of the organization. Then different species of organization is always there. Yes, different kinds of organization working in different sectors. The organism's metaphor views organization as a living system striving to survive in an uncertain environment. So in this way we can connect the organization as an organism or use the metaphor organisms to address or understand what organizations actually are. Then we see organization as brains. Now, originally known as the decision making approach towards viewing the organization, was pioneered in the year 1940s and 1950s by the Nobel Prize winner Simon and James March. They explored the parallels between human decision making and organizational decision making. As a human being, if I am thirsty, I would look out for the options to drink water. I will take this decision that yes, the water is available in front of me, so I will try to quench my thirst. So motive here is to drink water. In the same manner, organization have certain motives, that is objectives, goals, and in order to meet those objectives, they go for a decision making process in which brainstorming, looking out for alternatives, then trying to opt for the best alternative and then come to a conclusion and implement that particular decision. So just like our brain or brain of any organism, organization also gets involved in human in decision making process. So Sigmund Simon argued that organization can never be perfectly rational because their members have limited information and processing abilities. So, what can go wrong? Nobody knows. What uncertainty is there in our organizational environment is going to possess in the coming future? We cannot foresee it all the time or with 100% precision. So, arguing that usually have to act on the basis of this deficient information about possible courses of action and their consequences. So, in management, we always refer to the term scenario building. So, it is one of the easiest way to come to a conclusion or decide what we have to do in future. So scenario building, we decide one scenario that we envision that this can happen if you take this certain decision or this plan, and the outcome can be this, and there can be these alternatives to perform in a certain way and come to achievement of goals and objectives. So we decide our possible course of action and what the possible outcome or consequences of these actions could be. But it is always done with deficient information. Do we have 100% information about the trends which are going to come by the time we have implemented that particular plan? No, we cannot do that because business environment is again very volatile and dynamic in nature. then are able to explore only a limited number of alternatives relating to any given decisions. The decision making cannot be done with abundant of alternatives. No, there is a limited number of alternatives. And even if we have abundant number of alternatives, do we have the time to evaluate all those alternatives and come to a conclusion? No. So time constant will always be there. So unable to attach accurate values to the outcomes, Simon concluded that individual and organizations settle for a bounded rationality of good enough. So we think whatever we have decided is good enough in that particular situation based upon simple rule of thumb and limited search and information at our hand. So organizations can be understood as brains also. Then organizations as culture. So there exists a social cultural environment when you talk about the business environment. Okay, and it is a macro level factor which affects the organization and its internal organization. That now culture exists within the organizational boundaries as well. Now when this culture is there, it is a kind of mini society and have its distinctive patterns of culture and subculture, because people are coming from the society, they carry some values, norms, beliefs, and they formulate an organizational culture which depicts the ideology or mission, vision, and objectives of the entire organization. So organizations are also an example of culture, or we can understand it as a culture, which is a modern concept used in anthropological and social sense to refer broadly to civilization and social heritage. Okay. This meaning of the word did not appear in an English dictionary until 1920s. Its increasing use with the social sciences has led to the definition of varying generality, which had developed in a host of ways. Now, Taylor's view that culture of civilization is that complex whole which includes knowledge, belief, art, law, morals, norms, customs, attitudes of the people, and any other capabilities and habits acquired by man as a member of the society. So in the same way, organizations also do have certain knowledge, certain development, certain skill, belief, art, law, morals, code of conduct, ethics, policies, procedures, customs, and it has certain competencies and capabilities. It has certain habitual procedures. So in this way, organization can be understood as a culture as well. Then we see it as a political system, like as many states where relationship between individual and society parallels by the relationship between individual and organization. There are three frames of references that are quite relevant for understanding organization as political system. Let's see. First it is pluralist frame, then the unitary frame, and then radical frame. The pluralist frame of references emphasizes the plural nature of interest, conflicts, and sources of power that shape organizational life. The unitary frame of reference views that society can be considered as an integrated whole where interests of individual and society are synonymous. There is no differentiation. Everyone is part of the society and they all have certain integrated interest. Now then we have radical frame of reference, which means that compromising antagonist class interest and characterizes by deep-rooted social and political cleavages and have holds as much coercions as by absent consent. So these are the various views of a political system, and yes, organization can also be understood as a political system. Then comes the last section of this entire unit, which is 7S's model. Now, 7S's framework was first appeared in the Art of Japanese Management by Richard Pascal and Anthony in 1981. It was born at a meeting of four authors, namely Richard, Anthony, Athos, Tom Peters, and Robert Waterman in 1978, and came into sight in search of excellence by Peters and Waterman. Okay, so the global management consultancy, which is McKinsey, has taken up it as a basic tool. Therefore, at times it is known as McKinsey's 7S model as well. So there are 7S's in the model. Now, what are these as 7S? So 7S, one stands for structure, then second system, then style, staff, skill, strategy, and superordinated goals. So these are the different 7S which is involved in the 7S model of an organization. But to understand it, so first one is strategy. What is strategy? A set of action that the company starts with and which it must maintain. It also means the integrated vision and direction of the company as well as the manner in which it derives, articulates, communicates, and implements that vision and direction. Then comes the structure, how people and tasks and work are designed and structured in a manner that they are working in a seamless manner, the policies and procedure which governs their action and the way in which people and this structure works about. So which the organization acts within itself and within. It's an environment and the organizational hierarchy setup as well as the group and ownership structure. So this is structure. Okay. Then system, as we all know, system has a process. There is transformation. It needs input and it gives us an output. And there are various parts which are involved or elements which are involved in decision making, organizing, doing the transformation work. So all the processes and information flows that link the organization together. The decision making system within the organization that can range from management intuition to structured computer system to complex expert system and artificial intelligence. It all includes computer system, operation system, HR system, or marketing system, research and development system. So system as a whole is again one of the 7S in the model of 7Ss. Then the style, how manager behave, what is the conflict management style, what is the leadership style, what is the personality of the employees and common ways of thinking and behaving, and unwritten norms and behaviors throughout the organization and its culture depicts the style the organization has. Then staff, how the employee work within the organization, how the company develops its managers and future managers, how it performs certain selection, training, reward and recognition, retention, motivation, and assignment to employees, and appropriate assigning them the appropriate work, etc. So, staffing is another important S within the 7S model, and it depicts how the function or jobs are divided and how these jobs are being performed by the employees who have been hired with the certain technology, that is recruitment and selection function. Then superordinate goals, long-term vision and all that value stuff that shape the destiny of the organization are superordinated goals like vision, mission and objective or goal statement are the outlook which organization have at its conception phase and in its development phase, and it runs the organization to a better future, and it decides or shape of the destiny whether the organization is going to survive in the market or not. So shared values means that the employees share the same guiding principles and values are the thing one would strive for even if they were demonstrably not profitable. So value act as an organization conscience. providing guidance in times of crisis and day-to-day activities. So values are very important and they decide what type of vision I'll have for the organization. And these are the subordinated goals of any organization. Then next is important as is skill. Without skill, we cannot perform jobs and duties that are to be accomplished within a stipulated time. So dominant attributes or capabilities that exist in the organization are termed as skills. They refer to the fact that employees have certain skills needed to carry out the company's strategies, and training and development are those functions or activities through which we ensure that the employees are going to have the desired skill to perform the job and stay up to date with the latest techniques and the latest capability or competency gaps. So skill is one of the major 7S when it comes to 7S models, and that's all. So, coming to the next unit, which is the theoretical framework. In this unit, we will try to understand what is organization again in brief. Then, what are the various theories of organization? What are the approaches to understand organizational structure again? And what are the historical perspective that the early management gurus or management scholars had for the organization? So it is always good to have a historical perspective to understand how trends will be there in future. So unless we understand that what was the development phase and how it took the exact shape which is it which in which it is right now, how can we decide or define what trend can be in the coming future. So, to make you understand the theory, historical perspective approaches to understand is the objective of this entire unit, which is theoretical frameworks of the organization. Seeing the structure, we have introduction, historical perspective, then classical era or organizational theory, neoclassical approach, and modern theories are there. And in this way, we'll be able to understand the entire organizational framework or theoretical framework in a better way. So let's get to the background of organization and how it developed. So, growth of organizational theory typically began with Taylor and Weber. We have mentioned this term during our last few classes again. Max Weber and Frederick Winslow Taylor are the pioneers of one of the major pioneers of this management field, and we'll see how they've shaped up the growth and development of organization. So, designing an effective organization should be the scientifically based and forward looking approach to organization. Then, that there is direct correlation between the firm's design or organization design and the performance, and it makes it necessary to determine how an organization should be designed. So, unless we understand that how it has taken its shape, how can we redesign it? So, understanding of theory is pertinent when it comes to understanding the organization and how it came into being. So, according to Nicholson, which is a study conducted in 1995, organizational theories refer to a series of academic viewpoints which attempt to explain the multiplicity of organizational structure and operating process. Theories are the knowledge system that study and describe the organizational structure, function, organization, and group and individual behavior in organization. So, to understand a country's geography or entire system, we need to understand what history it had, what civilizations were there in the past years or past centuries. So we have been discussing or studying all these things in sociology and anthropology, and in the same way, organization too have its organizational theories, which help us to understand that how structure, design, framework of organization have taken its shape, which is today we view it in the manner. So, historical perspectives, the work of organizational theory started in the 1850s, and the root can be found in Gulick's 1937 study, which is Note on the Theory of Organizing. Then Starbuck in 2003 in totality concluded that organizational theory comprises of basically scientific management, industrial psychology, industrial engineering, modern organization and neoclassical approach. So these are the various eras or viewpoints through which we can view an organization or understand it. So basically we are here discussing the three or two broad classifications of the entire development of organization. In other way, you can also study it or understand it as pre-industrial revolution era, then industrial revolution era, then post industrial revolution era. Here we are viewing it as pre-classical era, classical theory, neoclassical theory, and modern theory. See, we will view the dominant theories being uh, being published or being advised during these phases. Okay, so starting with the pre-classical era, we have Adam Smith and his studies or his works were his lifetime was from 1723 to 1790. He was popularly known as the father of modern economics, as we all know, and he emphasized on the need for specialization as an essential factor of productivity. So generalization in terms of industrialization cannot happen. So specialization has to be there for increasing the productivity. Division of labor, according to him, was placed as relevant contributing factor to the distribution of tasks according to specialization. And in his view, it helped to attain effectiveness and efficiency in production. Then, according to Adam Smith, there was a principle of invisible hand, and it was placed in such a manner that we can understand that substantial importance on the linkage of organizational goal and with labor incentives. So, whenever there is organization, it is achieving its productivity, working in effective and efficient manner, providing the society with its product and services to fulfill its need. There is always an invisible hand involved in all these outcomes, and that invisible hand is the labor's hand. Then he also suggested in his era or study that it is essential to bridge the gap between personal goals and the organizational goals. So the gap of individual motive and organizational objective were realized by Adam Smith in his era only, which is pre-classical era. And in order to succeed, he always emphasized that this gap should be filled, and there should be a sync or link between the personal goals and the organizational goals. Now, according to him, this would have benefited the employee's self-interest and the group's well-being also. So, viewing organizational goals with utmost importance from the management sides of view was pertinent, but personal goals and objectives and groups goals and objectives of the people working there was also being held important at that particular time, at least was recognized by Adam Smith. So all of these that Smith suggests will drive a nation's economic progress. Yes, organizations together will work when people are dedicated to the organization, and when organizations are contributing to the well-being of the society, providing them with desired product and services would lead to the total or economic growth or progress of the nation. Then another contributor of this pre-classical era is Charles Babbage, who was a professor of mathematics at Cambridge University and observed that mostly the organization relied on assumptions, conjecturing and suggesting when it comes to decision making. So he therefore emphasized on the importance of logic and rational thinking and an application of science and basic principles to the field of organization and management. The reason behind same was relying on facts rather than acting on fiction or just on own whims and fancies. This in turn shall lead to the accuracy and an increase in productivity. So the famously known as modern father of modern computing, Babbage relied on the specialization of work, just like Adam Smith, and then profit sharing as the mechanism of better productivity. Profit sharing between whom? Between the labor class and the management. Then we see Robert Owens' work, which is also very dominant in the pre-classical era, and he was the one of the most eminent contributors who worked towards management of human resources. The work environment in the factories was improvised and the work burden was extreme due to the industrial revolution. So how could we fight with all those issues? So Robert Owen suggests a few things like stretching work hours and contribution of children towards the production made Owen realize the importance of well-being of workers at workplace, which no one was not noticing at that point of time. So he realized the fact that employees at workplace are important as the emphasis on production standard and machine is being given. So he said or he emphasized on the importance of workers' well-being and and also suggested that it can be a decisive factor that could work toward the enterprise or organization's own success. Thus, after evolution of the conditions at the workplace towards 1817, Owen introduced 8-hour rule, that is 8-hour day, 8-hour labor, 8-hour recreation, and 8-hour complete rest. So, in this way, he decided that what an ideal work hour should be. So, instead of maintaining strict discipline at workplace and interdiscriminately deciding on labor related matters, Owen came up with the idea to manage employees and consider them while important decisions related to them are being taken up. So, in this way, Robert Owen is popularly known as the father of modern or personal management. Then the theory leading prevalent, then we see the another shift, the paradigm shift was to from pre-classical era or pre-classic organizational theory to classical organizational theories. Leading theories were prevalent in the year 1930s, and there was a rise in demand for machines and production led to coordinated working methods. It is the industrial revolution era at its peak. So due to the revolution, there was a need to use large machines to cater to the high demand of the society and the masses, and workplace dependent largely upon the coordinated and capital intensive work progress. Then another feature of this classical organizational theory is that the entire organization was viewed as a machine and the workers were considered different parts of that machine. Logic behind the theory was that to build on the firm's efficiency and it's essential to work toward the efficiency of all the workers. The scholars focused on the top level efficiency in the organization, and theory includes two major schools of thoughts, that is scientific management and Fayol's principles of management. So the classical organizational theory suggests that there are four major pillars of foundation of the organization. What are they? The division of work, scalar rule, and functional processes. Then the structure should be there and span of control. What are these? We'll be discussing it in the 14 principles of management given by Henry Fayol, coming in the last section of this particular unit. So first we will discuss the scientific management approach of the classical organizational theory. It was founded by Frederick Winslow Taylor, known as the father of scientific management movement. And this theory or this management approach, which is scientific management approach, was successfully moved forward by Frank Lillian Gilbert, and then Henry Gant, and then Amos. And Taylor was the dominant management guru of this particular approach. So we name him as father of scientific management. Also published books like Shop Management and Principles of Scientific Management, and which have enticed the worldwide attention, has led to the shift in the thought process of management and how we take up the work at the organization. Objective of this theory, scientific management theory, is to focus on developing each man's efficiency, and then methods applied were attempts to find out the best possible way to do a job in the most economic manner, a cost effective way. Then there was a definite aim, that is, all the functions that management does, like organizing, directing, conducting, controlling human activities, must have a definite aim before the managers take up the organizing and performing activity to manage the human resources to achieve its aim. So the definite aim should be there as per this approach. Then the approach is very systematic, analytical, and the objective approach to solving industrial problems, and then systematic approach to the management that ensures that all activities are carried out in a very methodical manner. Then a definite plan should be there. Before starting work, we have to plan, and without planning, we cannot reach the desired destination. So the work is to be done strictly according to that plan within the stipulated time or predetermined time. Then discard old methods. Then it also emphasizes that the old methods or rule of thumb or hit or miss approaches should be discarded with defined rules, methods, and procedures which are very rational and practical in nature. Cutting down on wastage was another objective of this classical organizational theory, which is scientific management, as we are discussing it right now. So, all avoidable production components are removed, and a genuine attempt is made to attain a highest production at the minimum cost. So, reduction of wastage of whether it is raw material, whether it is time, whether it is human effort was the basic goal of this entire scientific management theory. Then emphasis was on all the factor of production, that is production, men, material, technological factors, the time resource, the money, the cost effectiveness. So emphasis was all on the important aspect of the organization. Techniques were given also emphasis, that it implies scientific practices, work methods, recruitment, selection, training of the workers. Then changes in attitude include a complete change in the mental attitude of worker and management. Management should take workers as a part of the organization and should be taken care in a way which is better than the machine. That human beings should not be treated as a machine, and this attitude should be changed in the management. In the same manners, workers should view management and the organization as their fathers, as their in the paternal approach. Also, it views that organization and the management and the executives are like father or take caretakers of the employees, and they have to think about the well-being of the workers. So workers attitude towards the work should be very much conducive towards the organization, and the personal motive should be aligned with the organizational motive. So change in the attitude of workers and the management was one of the basic goals of this scientific management theory. Then a set of rules should be there to follow the objectives and attain the goals of the organization. Specialization of the work was another emphasis which was laid down by this principle or management theory. In this, serving work into dividing the work into small doable jobs, and each job being assigned to the skilled individual leads to the better and more work being done in less time was the basic connotation attached to the specialization word. So they emphasized on this. And scientific selection of personnel. So person or people employees should be hired with the different set of capabilities, capacities, competencies, and attitude, and therefore must be selected for the job best suited to them. And the salary, wages, and compensation should be decided as per the work performance of an individual. So, scientific selection of personnel, giving them proper training, development, and compensation was also a key point or key factor in this entire theory. Then we see another important theory in this classical organizational theory was Henry Fayol's 14 principle. The 14 principles has been laid down in front of you with the help of this PPT is division of work, that is each and every work should be assigned to a particular person, and there should be no redundance of work and no role ambiguity between the employees. Then authority should be there, everyone should know that yes, this is my boundary, I have the authority, I have this job position, and nobody can challenge me, I can take decisions on my own for the work I've been assigned, and everybody knows whom to report. Then the discipline, the code of conduct, the disciplinary action should be made very much clear to the employees so that they work in a very desired manner. Then unity of command, everybody should know that this is the superior and I have to follow his direction. It should not be like that according to this theory, that each employee is confused at whom from whom he should take the orders. So unity of command should always be there. Unity of direction, that one person is deciding what direction to be given to the subordinates, so that nobody is confused and everybody knows that where this direction is coming from. Then collective interest over industrial interest. People should realize that their own interest should be aligned with those of industry's interest, and collective interest should be given more importance over the individual interest. Then remunerization, centralization of power, few decision making powers, few decision uh, should be there in certain hands, and then decentralization as well. So certain authority, certain power should be given at various levels of the organizational hierarchy so that the decisions could be taken in a prompt way and in a very timely manner. Then scalar chain. There should be a chain of command which people need to know and they should follow. Then order, equity, stability of tenure of personnel. Everybody should know that they have a job security in the organization. Then initiative should be given importance. People should take initiative and work in taking leadership roles and taking the communication from their part. Then there is esprit de corps. Esprit de corps means that united we stand, divided we fall. So if there is unity, organization can fight any situation, any change at any point of time. But if divided, it will fall with a single blow of wind. So these are the 14 principles that were given by Henry Fayol, which are relevant to a great extent in today's scenarios as well. Then we have neoclassical approach, the last approach, modern approach. The neo it is featured as the feature various features of this approach is that bifurcated into two school of thought: human relation school and behavioral school. Human relation school focused on how the relationship operated between the groups and why it is important to realize the importance of the entire group and their relation and their networking, their dependence upon each other. Then behavioral school focused on the way individuals operate and behave in the organization in a particular manner. So it is implied that the workers work in a system and that influence their behavior and action in a crux. The fundamental principle of neoclassical approach, when taken at the level of individual, any human being continues to interact with the social context every day. Thus, it can be argued that any employee can solely treated as a mechanical tool. Man is not a machine. So each individual has distinct desire other than the security need fulfillment. Then the work group, neoclassical approach focused on social relations prevalent in the organizational setup. There will be informal ties, formal relationship, informal communication, formal communication, and these all web network will help the organization to grow in the long run. So informal ties that operate under a formal hierarchy form groups that help providing strategies and synergies between the different groups performing in the organization. Okay. Then human relations theory from 1920 to 1932 at the Hawthorne plant in Chicago, Elton Mayer study was there conducted experiments in different phases like illumination, relay assembly, interviewing programs, and bank writing observation room experiments. So these are the various experiments conducted over a period of time, which was like a decade and a half, and it was conducted by Elton Mayo. These experiments' primary intent was to determine if the working conditions and other issues reflected the productivity levels or not. So the study concluded that despite the pay, the other incentives, the social and psychological factors are always there at workplace, and feeling of being an associated and belongingness is also important when it comes to uh, managing human resources. So it must be emphasized in the organization. Then behavioral science theory, group behavior, interpersonal relation was being focused and significantly influenced on how human beings work and operate in the organization. This theory also viewed. So, students, we come to the end of this class, and tomorrow we'll be discussing the modern theory. So, this is Dr. Kirti wrapping up with the topics discussed today. So, thank you so much and have a great day.